Today we're going to make Cowboy Caviar, which is a really quick and tasty bean salad. It uses black-eyed beans, black beans, sweet corn, with some bell peppers, some red onion, some tomatoes. And then we make a nice dressing out of the olive oil. I've got rice vinegar. You can use white wine vinegar if you want as well. Some sugar, some chili powder, and then we add some cilantro or coriander at the end to garnish as well. So we're going to get started through making the dressing. It's quite a quick recipe, so we're going to just go for 1/4 cup of each of the dressing ingredients to begin with. So 1/4 cup of oil. You can experiment with this dressing as well, so if you want to go less oil, or if you want to go try adding some different things in there like lemon juice and that, you're welcome to do that, but we're just going to go ahead and go with equal measures of the vinegar, the oil, and the sugar as well. I'm using caster sugar just because it's finer, so it kind of, I think it gets diluted easier. That's my thinking behind it anyway. So mix that in. This tends to make quite a lot of dressing as well, so one thing you can do, you can just half the quantities if you find there's a lot of dressing left over when you're done. And then the final thing is 1/4 cup of sugar. Now, you should probably do the sugar first because what I'm going to have now is the sugar is going to stick to this cup after I've done it, but it's okay. Now, the sugar, again, is it's optional. You don't have to put in this much. It's to taste, it says on the first recipe I found that I based this on. So, okay, and into that as well, we're going to add some chili powder and some salt. So I'm going to grab 1 teaspoon of chili powder. That's about all I've got actually, so a good thing. Yeah, 1 teaspoon. And then we're going to take a teaspoon of salt as well. You're going to have to excuse my salt pouring mechanism. It's a grinder with already ground salt in it. Don't ask. Okay, so we're putting a teaspoon of salt in as well. A little bit more. Okay, there we go. Alright, so that's what we need for our dressing. So we're just going to whisk that up. It should all come together pretty quickly. You don't really need to whisk it for long, it's just more about mixing it. Getting that sugar kind of diluted down. Okay, so we're getting something that looks a little bit like that. It smells good. It smells sweet. You can smell that vinegar, but you also got that kind of chili and olive oil smell as well coming from it. So that's going to be the base of the flavour, really, is that dressing. So again, if you don't like chili, you're welcome to use some different spices or herbs to make a different type of dressing, but it would work still regardless. So we're gonna prep some veg now, I think. So we'll start with the red onion. So red onion is a little less harsh in a salad because we're not going to cook this or anything either. So it's a case of if you don't like red onion, I've done it with spring onion before, which is if you're using the green bits of that, it's a little bit less harsh. Okay, we're looking good on this. So mainly you want to dice it as much. It's your preference, really. You can, if you don't like the strong flavour of onion, then do it as small as you can. But yeah, if you are fine with it, then you can go in as chunky as you like. Okay, so yeah, I'm just going to half it, and then we'll go to relatively small chunks. Okay, here's the onion, 1/2, let's do the other. Okay, so you can keep it all to one side if you want, and then add on all the veg to this dressing at the end. But for the sake of ease at the moment, I'm just going to chuck things straight in as soon as I chop them. I don't think there's any problem with doing that. The only exception would be like putting in the coriander, because it'll get soaked if you chuck it in with the dressing first. So there's that. Now, the recipe initially is to have half of a red and half of a green. So I am going to do that, but I'm pretty sure you could get away with just having one pepper, choosing whichever one you prefer, and going with that. But yeah, so we're going to do about half of this red pepper. We might go for a little bit more than what we got there. Okay, I'll use the rest of that another time. And we're basically dicing this up as small as we can comfortably go. You don't want to. This is a quick recipe, so you don't want to waste a lot of time really cutting really finely if it takes you a long time to do it. I'm not very good at chopping. I don't employ any proper technique, so to speak, so it's just a case of chop it without chopping your fingers off and without going at a snail's pace. Okay, there's that. There we go, these little top bits as well, so they can just go in as they are, really, just chop across them. And one final piece. Awesome. Now we're going to do the same with the green pepper as well now. It's just half of each, or one whole of whatever colour you want. Green pepper's a little older, but I'm hoping it's still good. Yeah, it looks fine. We will chop off. Just got some of the seeds in this. I'm going to empty out. Green pepper's generally looking good. We'll probably get a little bit more off. We'll get one more slice. Try and avoid that white bit as much as you can. So you have to scrape it off after chopping it. Awesome, green pepper's done. Let's get those mixed in as well. So it's coming together a little bit now. I will move these out of the way. We'll place it up here so you can see it building up. That into there. Nice, okay. So the final things that we've got to chop really are, we've got tomatoes. I've got these which are just about kind of coming to the end of their happy life. So I'm just going to make sure that they're healthy to use first off. You can use whole tomatoes as well and dice them down, it's not a problem. Just, you generally want them into bite-sized pieces, right? So you can half or quarter these, and that wouldn't be a problem. That one is a bit... Yeah, I think they're... On the whole though, they're fine. The two of them going a bit soft, so I'll skip those, but... Alright. So, again... Just going to go half on each. So one thing I found before is if you de-seed it, it can really help with, you don't get as much excess water from it, right? So if you can scrape out all the seeds and the inner bits of it, but it takes a lot longer to do that. So I kind of I go the lazy route. Or the quick route, to be honest. Just going to, half and then roughly quarter these up. benefit of having a sharper knife, and some riper tomatoes will be that you can cut through them easier. But no, we're doing fine. So I'd rather use them than waste them as well. So about regarding how much you need of them, I had a small pack of cherry tomatoes that I probably had around a quarter of beforehand. So you probably get away with maybe one large or a couple of medium tomatoes, and dice those up. Okay, last two. Okay, sweet. So we've got that coming together now, which is nice. I'm just going to grab ourselves a spoon quickly. Start mixing that up. Okay, so we do have some coriander to chop up as well, and we've got some beans to drain. I'm just going to go and wipe down my chopping board so the coriander doesn't get caught up in the tomato juice. Okay, and as for coriander, it really depends how much you like it. Some people hate it. Also, whether you want to get rid of the stalks is whether it bothers you. To be honest, with me it doesn't. If I see some huge ones, I'll take them out, but generally it's fine. I just literally grab it as well as you can. That's the good thing about not getting rid of the stalks, is you can kind of grab it and it stays together in one piece. Chop it across one way, bunch it up again, and just drag your knife through the opposite way if you can. If you want, you can kind of get it a lot smaller if you just kind of run your knife through fast like this. A couple of bits which are a little bit older there, so let's get those out. This bit's a bit pale as well. Won't do us any harm, mind. Okay, so right, so our coriander's ready. I'm not going to quite chuck that in yet because I don't want it to be sitting in the water, but we're going to leave that there. We've now got a few different types of beans that we're going to drain. So whenever I used to open beans, I'd always just hold the lid half on and drain it out over the sink and then run water in it and do it again. I just use a colander, it's so much quicker, and it's a little more extra to wash up, but I find it so much more worth it these days. So we got those. We've got these black beans, and then we've got some sweet corn as well. So I'm going to get all of these into a colander, and I'm just going to rinse them in the sink with some water. So I'll be right back. So with these beans, if you're making a smaller portion, or maybe you don't have these sort of beans available in the shops near you as well, I see quite often I do see there's these tins of mixed beans which kind of include a couple more. They tend to have like sliced green beans and sometimes red peppers and that. They're all just crammed into one tin. That does the job. I've done that before and it works fine as well. So whatever beans you can get hold of, really. But these are the ones that the original recipe I found used, so we're going to go ahead with that. So let's bring these beans across. Now that they've been drained, I try and shake them off as much as I can over the sink. The reason for that is we don't want the water going in. We've already got quite a bit of moisture from the dressing, so we don't need to add a lot of water to that. So we've still got quite a bit of water mixed in, but this is what we have. And we're literally just going to pour those in. And our bowl is a lot more full all of a sudden. Right, so now we're in a position where we can actually stir this together properly and try and get that dressing kind of going over everything somewhat. So what we got in here, we started off with our dressing, which was our rice vinegar, our olive oil, our sugar in equal measure, and then we added a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of chili powder. After that, we added some red onion, we added some red and green peppers, half of each. We added a bunch of cherry tomatoes that I quartered up. And then we drained some black beans, some black-eyed beans, and some sweet corn in with this. And then we've just cut up quite finely some coriander that we're going to just mix into this now as well. So again, it's up to you how much you want. I find once you start mixing it through, it's you don't actually get too much per mouthful. But if you're sensitive to it, then be cautious how much you put in. But I find it really gives it that freshness actually, because you've got that sweetness from the dressing along with a bit of spice, and you've got the vinegar as well cutting across it, and then the coriander kind of gives it that lighter flavour as well. So yeah, it's a good mix altogether. So I'll probably get pretty much all of that coriander I chopped. I'll get that in because I quite like coriander. So we'll mix that up. Awesome, and it's as easy as that. You can just chuck this in the fridge then, get it to chill. If it's generally a cold day, as it often is here in the UK, or if you're using chilled ingredients, then you can probably just enjoy it straight away. But yeah, it is nice and cold, and it can sit in the fridge for a couple of days. Just be aware of the dressing at the bottom. So if you're not going to have it immediately and it's sitting in the fridge a couple of days, just stir it around so you don't have some of it sitting in that dressing. But yeah, there is our Cowboy Caviar.